Hi, I'm Kristen Denny-Chambers, clarinetist, composer, and founder of Clarinet Playground. This is video number 10 out of 40, going through all of the etudes in Finger Fitness Études Book 2. This is for Celebration. Celebration is dedicated to T.C. Spivey-Hall. T.C. has had a very eclectic musical career, including teaching and performing, and doing some things that are a little bit out of the ordinary. He's had quite a bit of experience performing with different orchestras and wind bands, as well as a few interesting things like working for the original Battle of the Bands and Jamboree as the band coordinator, Precision Summer Band Camp as the head clarinet instructor, and the Bands of America as assistant to the director. While TC has had his hand in many different musical organizations as a performer and as an instructor, what I know him best as is the founder and owner of the KLARIGARTEN Akademy. This studio has a full complement of professional musicians that travel and host private instrumental music classes for brass, woodwinds, and percussion. And the ultimate goal and objective is to prepare students for All-State, Atlanta Youth Wind Symphony, Metropolitan Youth Symphony Orchestra, Atlanta Symphony Youth Orchestra, Metropolitan Atlanta Youth Wind Ensemble, and the DeKalb Youth Symphony Orchestra auditions. What drew me the most to TC is how he celebrates his students, hence the title of this etude, Celebration. Anytime you visit TC's social media page, you'll find pictures and videos of him celebrating his students, and that's what he is all about. Let's take a look at the music. At the bottom of each page in this etude book, you'll find one or two practice tips, but before I even mention them for this one, I'm going to strongly encourage you to practice your D-flat major scale. You've got to have that scale under your fingers to be able to manage this etude. But we do have these hints. There are many tricky fingering combinations, so plan ahead. And in measure 23, lift fingers 2 and 3 of the right hand while 1 and the pinky remain. At the top of the page, you'll find 2 finger drills. You want to make sure you really practice these intently because these are the finger drills that are folded into the music. This is the part that's really challenging in the piece of music, and that's the whole point. So for this one, we're playing D flat to F, and we have to lift 4 fingers and try to get them to coordinate and lift together. And it's also very critical that we keep that curve in the fingers and think about lifting from the back knuckle. I often think about puppet strings lifting from here and then letting go. And then you pick up the puppet strings again and then you let them go. And that kind of helps you to envision the curve in the fingers rather than allowing the fingertips to do all the work. So if you've got this kind of action going on, then you're creating a lot of distance between the clarinet and the energy is coming from here. So we want that energy to come from back there to maintain the curve. The style and character of this etude is jubilantly, with determination. And it's a quick one, so take your time, go ahead and learn it slowly at first, and then when you feel like you've got the hang of it, you can push it and really get the character going. In the main theme, we do want clean and crisp articulation in the mixed articulation sections. The slur 2, tongue 2, aim for a very crisp staccato, and you can even clip off the last note of each slur. Then when you have the smooth section, you want to be very connected, very legato, and focus on the connections in between the notes. I'll play this next example. It's the pickup to measure 5. So we have this back and forth between this mixed articulation and the smooth sections. So use these character shifts to create different colors and moods in your sound. Let's take a look at the rhythm. For this etude, we have a lot of running 16th notes, so when you're working on those, just make sure they're very even. Use your metronome to check that. There are also a couple of pairs of 8th notes used to create suspense in the music, and you can see that here at the end of measure 2. You'll also see some dotted 8th sixteenths and 8th plus 2 sixteenths. So if you look at measure 9, you'll see those. Also, be sure to play full value on any long durations like the dotted quarter notes and half notes. Sometimes those are followed by a breath, so play them as long as you possibly can to extend the phrase before you take your breath. And then we do have one appearance of 32nd notes, and this is at the end of this sort of cadenza section that we play with freedom. We'll go over that here in just a little bit. But in this section, we have those 32nd notes leading up into that fermata. If you look at measure 23, and I'll play that for you. Now we'll look at some areas for focus. Navigating the key signature in general, that is just part of the tricky part of this etude. You've got to be able to play your D flat major scale really comfortably to feel comfortable with this etude. And then let's look at measure 5 and 6. There are some fingering choices that need to be made in advance and some alternates to go over. So with B flat, E flat, A flat, D flat, and G flat in our key signature, that means that all of these G's are G flats in here. And if you want to take the opportunity to practice flip-flopping, because that's something we do need to practice and we want to be able to do it well, you could flip-flop this entire section. So you would literally play F, G flat, A flat, D flat, then coming through these 16ths again, B flat, A flat, G flat front, F back, and you could just continue this flip-flop, high E flat, A flat, G flat front, A flat, G flat front, flip to the back for the thumb. So you can make that an exercise on flipping on purpose. You can also make it a purposeful exercise for only using the side fingering for G flat. So then you would have F, bottom 2 side keys for G flat with the F, A flat, D flat, choose whichever one you like. I tend to favor the right side for D flat. Then B flat, A flat, side, G flat, thumb F, E flat across, A flat, side, A flat, side, let go for the F, high F, E flat, D flat, C, B flat, A flat, side, F, and then we're going to land on our fork G flat at the top because of what comes after that in the music. So be prepared for that as well. Now your other option is to mix and match. You might find that flipping is more convenient in some places, and you might find that the side key is more convenient in other places. So figure out what works best for you, what you're able to play the most cleanly, and maybe matching pitch. Some people are concerned about pitch with alternate fingerings. So do what works and trust your gut. Now if we look down at measure 11, we have the high D flat. This figure appears twice in the etude. When I originally wrote it, I wrote it with the purpose of using the cheat high D flat fingering, and that is your thumb and the bottom 2 side keys, just like the low G flat alternate, sort of as a way to practice that alternate low and high. And it really depends on your voicing and your air and your quality of tone, whether or not you can get away with that side key fingering for the high D flat. You have to color it just right, be a little bit gentle with it, and then blow lots more air after it to balance that and make sure it stays sweet, because it can really get out of control and get a little bit wild in the tone quality. Otherwise, you can do the traditional fingering for D flat, which is 2, 3, 1, 2, just like high C sharp. The challenge in that is that you have to cross into that altissimo register literally with that change in fingerings. And the way that the tube of the clarinet changes, that's also difficult. You want to make sure it's a very smooth transition. You can practice where you start on the D flat, let go for C, then go back to the D flat. Then you can go the other way where you start on the C, squeeze down in for that D flat. And we want gentle fingers, because if it's too harsh, it can make a bump in the sound. So think of just squeezing and being gentle like that. But I'll play it both ways. I'll use the side first, and then I'll use the traditional fingering for the high D flat. Now we'll take a look at the cadenza. So instead of marking at cadenza, I just wrote with freedom. So that means you have the freedom to be flexible with the speed. You can stretch some notes here or there and really make this section your own. But I do have some practice tips to help. So I will do things like I'll practice only the moving note, and then I'll practice where I play the moving note very long, and then I'll work on 4+1. So I'll do all 3 of those so you get an idea of some different strategies that you could use while practicing this etude. Now as we move on, the next section, the note that's changing is the 3rd note in each group. One quick thing I forgot to mention is the 32nd note turn at the end of 23. The trick on that, which is the pointer at the bottom of the page where it says lift fingers 2 and 3 of the right hand while the 1 and the pinky remain. Basically that means when you go from A flat to B flat and back to A flat, your pinky can stay down, and that will help make that turn a little bit easier to execute. The ending is quite different than anything else on the page, so it could very easily surprise you. Take the time to work on that as its own exercise. Sometimes I'll even practice the very last measure only, and then put the second to last measure with the last measure, and have that sort of destination practice. There is a low C option for this etude. If you turn to page 52, you'll be able to check that one out. I generally say learn the original first as a rule, and then the changes on this one are just scattered all over the page, but the cadenza is the same. And some final thoughts. Simply put, it's technical and it's in a tough key. You've got to be able to practice your D flat major scale and feel really comfortable with it. Take your time to learn slowly and with some calmness in your mind and in your body. The fingering choices made ahead of time are really critical. Spend some time with the cadenza. It's kind of like its own little exercise within the etude. And then once the technical work is really comfortable, focus on the character and the groove. Use the dynamic contrast and character shifts to create different moods and tone colors. And then finally, find your groove and just go for it and celebrate. To listen to a beautiful recording of this etude and all other etudes from this book, head over to my website, clarinetplayground.com. Trevor Stewart has recorded all 40 etudes beautifully, and they are available for purchase there on my website. Feel free to join us in the Clarinet Playground group on Facebook where we play and post for each other. And head over to my website at clarinetplayground.com for more fun music and books. Thank you so much. A flat, G flat. Why would I change that?